recording. Yes, so now we are recording your webinar. Welcome everybody to this webinar by Rob. Rob is the father of the Business English webinar series with IATEFL Poland, and I'm really grateful to him because I'm also one of those people who are especially interested in this area. As most of you probably already know, because there are many participants of this webinar, and I assume that many of you are here just for Rob. Rob is the joint coordinator of IATEFL BSIG, so you are also invited to join the group. He is also owner of Business Language Training Institute, and he specializes in a number of different areas like advanced communication, but also online language center and business language training institute. Then of course he participates in many conferences, IATEFL Poland included, and we are already looking forward to our next conference this September. And not to extend this information, today Rob will talk about upskill or standstill. So what does it mean? That is, simply speaking, retooling for the future learner. Over to you, Rob.
Well, thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. And I came up with my very professional artwork here to start us off. I hope you enjoy my talent. But what we want to talk about is upskill or stand still. And the reason that I use that picture is we need to change. We need to get better. And this is what I'm going to talk about coming up. And I'm not just going to rant and rave about things that we need to do. I'm going to give you some good ideas at the end of how we can get better. So, first of all, what is upskilling? Upskilling, you'll hear this a lot. It's a new buzzword that everybody's using. Basically, here's the definition you can read. And I want to apologize up front because I keep losing my voice and I may cough a few times. It's not COVID, and just in case it is, I'm running antivirus, so don't worry. So, this is upskilling. So, it's acquiring more skills. And in the old days, everybody used to just say CPD, but everybody runs away when they hear CPD. So I'm not going to talk about that. Let's call it upskilling. And this is improving yourself and improving your students. So reskilling is something else that you're going to hear. Reskilling is a little bit different. Now, this is pretty much when an employee is given new skills to fit a new role within their company. Now, this could apply to you if you're working for a company, if you're doing new training within the company you work for. So, upskilling is one of the key growth indicators today in business. And what I like to equate it to is lifelong learning. And this is something that as teachers, we should be doing all the time. Now, when it comes to communication skills, and we're helping our students, and we're even helping ourselves, it helps us refine. It engages people in new learning habits, both for them and for ourselves. So if you see the trend I'm going with here, I'm talking about how we upskill our students, but mainly what I'm talking about is how we upskill ourselves. Okay? Now, upskilling goes way beyond language, and I'm assuming that everyone here is a language teacher. I hope so. If not, find something better. No, I'm kidding. So, we're going to upskill professional skills. And it's not just language, it's not just teaching. There's so many more skills that are involved and we need. Now, this goes into hyper personalization of learning. It's not the old days. You've probably seen this before from Ken Robinson, did the beautiful poster about it. How when we started education, education was made and designed for people working in the factory. We're far from that these days. Everybody is doing more specified jobs, much more specific, and everybody needs different skills. How are we as teachers going to help them gain those skills? Now, we need to come up with relative content based on people's jobs. It's no longer being a successful English teacher just teaching English. And I'm not pushing you towards business English, but you need it. There are skills that we can do in general English, and we'll talk about the trends and how they're changing and what we need. So think about it. As I've said before, if you've heard me talk in the past, excuse me, why are people learning English? You know, it's not to watch Netflix, it's not to go to Disney, it's not just for the heck of it anymore. The majority of people are learning English because they need it for their job in whatever industry that they're in. So they need to be able to communicate real life business situations. So we need to start teaching more based upon what our learners' needs are and not what the needs of the course in the past has been. Now, just quickly in the chat room, just give me a Y or an N. Who's teaching specifically business English classes? Any of you here, put a Y for yes, put an N for no. Let me know you're alive. No? With a frown. No? Yes? Good. All right, since we're in Poland, if you want to put a T for talk, that's okay too. Okay, so it looks like the majority of you aren't yet. Okay. Now, there's so much more that we need to be teaching our students. Look at what our students' needs are these days. They have to do presentations. They're talking with customers at trade fairs, conferencing, participating in meetings at work, writing reports and emails, negotiating contracts, discussing strategies, organizing logistics. One thing we often hear, making small talk after the business meeting, and leading training. So there's a lot of skills that, as general English teachers, we just don't cover because it's not in our course book. So, yes, we're doing a great job teaching them English, but are we actually giving them the English that they're going to need in the future. So, what do we need to give them? Oh, it's a bad choice of words. We don't need to give them SARS, but we need to help them with service, with more advanced English, a more robust vocabulary, with more sophisticated language, and this is what we can work on. Now, I hate to say it, this is the negative point. Fortunately, we're not in person, so you can't throw things at me. But the reality is, we're looking to be replaced. And quite frankly, with AI coming out, computerized learning, apps learning, everything online, we're really close to extinction. Now, everybody says, no, we'll always need teachers to teach. I agree. I love technology, but I'm also very practical, and I'm also a business person. Just because you don't want to be replaced by computers doesn't mean it won't happen. Because let's take a look over the past, let's say 10, 15 years. Look at some of the jobs that have gone away. Jobs that people said, oh, these will never go away. They can't be replaced. These jobs are pretty much gone. Not in every country yet. I don't know when the last time you went to a video store. But even worse, let's take a look at the jobs that are slated to disappear very soon. Because of automation, because of robotics, because of machine learning, these can all be replaced. And they will go away in the near future. Now, as an English teacher, personally, I teach mostly one-on-one, so I'm able to personalize, customize, work on pronunciation, work on confidence building, and to work on evaluation of my students. I can do this easily in a one-to-one classroom, and I do it every day as a teacher. The thing is, I can do all these things one person at a time. With AI and machine learning, they can do thousands of students at the same time. So what we're looking at is the scalability of our skills. And it's coming down to the economy of scale. Because when you realize that somebody comes out with a good AI teaching system and makes it available, whether it be to universities, to municipalities, they're going to realize it's much less expensive. No building, no transportation, not a lot of people working, and more convenient for the student. Do they still need a teacher? Yes. But how many of us are slated to give them what they really need in the future? General English, they're learning now with apps on Duolingo. Now, think about it. We're actually setting them up for this already. How many of you are now doing asynchronous classes, doing pre-recording, post-recording, working with LMS systems, working with Moodles? We're setting them up for using technology and not needing the teacher. we have to be careful with this because we're training them to not need us anymore. So, what do we need to do? We got to stop putting the nail in the coffin. Let's not make it so easy for them. Let's get better at the skills we need so we can offer those skills to the students. Now, most of the time, I find, because I deal with business people, excuse me, and I'm dealing at higher levels, usually C1, C2, that they're lacking certain skills, specific communication skills, or they're lacking confidence. Now, machines can help them with that, but we can do a better job. But we need to be prepared. We know when students have language anxiety, when they're not confident, when they have problems with it, they go into language avoidance. And they just don't use the language, and they don't practice, so they don't improve. It's their perception of what their competence level is. And this is what we as human beings can work with. Now, one thing that I think we should work on, let's give you some good ideas on things that we can improve on to improve our students' life. I like to call this condensing because most students, if they become professionals using the language, are going to deal with correspondence. So they need to learn condensing. Actually, it should shrink. And what I mean by condensing is people don't read emails anymore. People don't read instructions anymore. We're so used to short texts, getting directly to the point, and in business, this is even more. If you take a look at this was one that I worked on. One of my students wrote this. 55 words. What we did is we worked on the text. How can we condense this, better get to the point without losing any information? And this is what we work on. We basically cut it in half. So you can take existing texts that you have students bring texts from work, get texts from anywhere, and work on condensing, making sure that they're able to use language, to use grammar, to become more sophisticated and shrink the message. Okay? Reports. Everybody in business works with reporting. Now, what I do is I take these situations and I have them do writing based on this. Give me a review of a work report. Write something up. This works on summarizing, paraphrasing, condensing. Now let's change it. A need to give feedback on colleagues. So let's say Susan asked me to critique her book. Of course, it's wonderful. But what I would have to do, I need to be cognizant of the language that I'm using. She's a colleague. I don't say, well, this part really sucked. No, I want to offer improvement. So now I'm working on the language, excuse me, that I need to work with coworkers. The need to tell others about work ethic. Think about the people that are working under you. How you can give feedback to others that you work with without causing a problem with the relationship. And how you can write so you don't scare the staff away. So, this was a situation we had with a student, and this was what was written. Good? What is it basically saying? It's saying it's positive. It's crucial to represent successful assessment. You hear assessment and you're, but this is successful assessment. Well-organized team, and to become an example for others. So, this is what we need to work on. Work on these skills. They have these words, but they need to think about how they put the words together to convey the proper message. Now, here's another thing that I do. And all of these, I'm giving you just a light gloss over idea. And if you've been following me and seen many of my talks, you'll recognize some of these because these are all talks that I do and all coursework I do. This is talking with tact. So, in a perfect world, when bosses and subordinates, co-workers are talking, everything is wonderful. Everybody's on an even balanced keel, and everybody is talking in a civilized manner. I wish that was true. That's in a perfect world. In reality, you're usually getting yelled at. And actually, the guy does look like me. But usually, people don't communicate properly. Maybe they need help with leadership skills. Maybe they need help with communication skills. Maybe they need to just relax. Now, what I work with a lot, because I work with, excuse me, try and get my voice back. I work a lot with people in management, customer service, sales, and product management. Mostly in the IT field, but I work with a lot of diverse management people from all over the world. And there's a time and a place for voicing and the way you talk to people. Sometimes you need a strong voice. Sometimes you need to be gentle. Or sometimes normal. Do you take the language you're working with now with your students and work on what's the balance of the language? There's many different ways to say the same thing. You did that wrong. This was good, but we can improve. I'm saying the same thing. It's the way we say it. Sometimes we want to be strong. Sometimes we want to be weak. The strong, I'll let you read so I save my voice. So as you see, we're working on how is my language? And they have to understand this sliding scale of what it is they're saying, not just the words. Okay? Now, it goes both ways, whether you're the boss, whether you're the employee. So it always depends on the message, because we know that there's always a meaning behind the words we use. There's a meaning behind the message. Now remember, think about your own language. When we talk, there's a nice way and there's a bad way to say things. In our own language, we understand this, but do learners understand it? Now, basically, we have to look at the temperature. Do we want to be polite? Do we want to be neutral? Do we want to be impolite? Sometimes you need to be strong. And we need to work with them and explain to them and have them work out the different levels of the words. So let's take a look. I'd be happy to help, all the way up. Here's something I work with customer service people. How often have you called and said, "Oh, I'm paying too much for my internet and it keeps going out. Sorry, nothing we can do." Or all the way down, "Let me see what I can do," all the way down to "I'd be happy to help. Let me see what I can do." Now, how do you react when you're the customer if you get "I'd be happy to help"? So, teaching them the difference of being soft yet being firm. Take a look at some of the words. And this is an idea. We understand this. Think about it. We teach them when we teach them superlatives: good, better, best. We're not doing anything different. We're teaching them the weight of the words that we use. So, again, this is great if you're working with students, customer service, sales, product management, design, programmers. They all have to deal with clients. Remember, if they're not tactful and take on the right voice with their client, they lose business. So, another one I like to do is UR role playing. And this is one, if any of you are BSIG members, I do this in the round table. It's a little bit of a game. Somebody type a number, pick a number. And this is great for group classes. Just type a number in the chat, 1 through 15. Let me know you're still alive. 9. Okay, great. All right, so basically, I have them practice over 30 seconds talking to others in a group situation, talking to a coworker like they're a know-it-all. And I have all these different scenarios. Let me see. I go back. And if I pick a different number, they're me. So now you can make a game out of this. break people into pairs, have one ask the other for a raise, have the other one be mean, have them switch roles, one be nice, one be mean. So this is how you can practice specific things. And it's simple. You can make a simple game. Okay, let me skip ahead. Let's get out of the game. And where were we? Yep. Okay, there we are. The other one, case studies. People usually run away with case studies. Now, I did this a few years ago. If you were at IATEFL Poland, and I believe it was in Warsaw, where I worked with getting off case studies. And what you need to realize, case studies are just stories. And we need to explain this to students. And I was talking about a case study about an education publisher, two publishers that merged. I won't go into the whole story, but what I did is I equated it to a fairy tale because it's exactly the same thing. It was the story of the wonderful princess and the prince and the evil King Jeremy the Harmer. But I'm not going to show you the whole thing. You can see recordings of my case studies. Working with groups. Now, this was a mixed ability group that I had to work with when I was in Brazil. This was a quasi-governmental situation they ran, were responsible for all the bus lines in Brazil. So because I had people that all had a little bit of different level, these ranged from B1 to C2 in the same class. These were all top managers, but all with different jobs. How did I deal with that and build a business situation? What I did is I became the customer. And I would send an email to customer service with a complaint. Now, normally in a business situation, what does customer service then do? Customer service then hands off the problem to logistics. Logistics would come up with some ideas for solutions, hand that off to the control department to make sure they could do that. The control department then had to hand off all this information to the legal department, my lawyer. My legal department would take all the information, approve it, hand it off to the marketing department, which would handle the advertising not only for the customers of the bus lines, but also hand it off to the training department to train the drivers and all the employees, but also back to customer service so customer service could get back to me. So when you have all different people mixed in a general English class, take advantage of what they do and build up scenarios. Now, we did this for almost 2 years. And we actually, just to feel empathy, I made the lawyer be the customer service department, and we switched roles. So this way, you'll see how language changes, and you see how communication and working together as colleagues with the language works. And the interesting thing about this, excuse me, when I took on this job, the first thing they said to me was, with this group, no course book. They've been through 5 other companies. They didn't like the course books. And they never wanted to do a case study. They hated them. So I did this. The funny thing is, at the end of every week, we would write up this situation into a case study. And the greatest thing was, now the people below the management level had actual relevant case studies from that company that they could work with. So not only did we create case studies, we created realia for the other employees of the company. Okay. So working with case studies, again, I did this in Warsaw, where I used KPIs. Most of us who work for people know what KPIs are, key performance indicators, or what I like to call it is keep people intimidated. Oh, sorry. But KPIs. So basically, I took a scenario. We had the finance department, the HR person, the director of studies, and the teacher within the school. And what we did is we looked at a story. And one of the stories was how teachers were blamed for things that were caused by finance, by DOS, by HR. For instance, the company that I worked for years ago, in reacting to a student survey, students were unhappy with the chairs and the desks. Well, the company found a way to blame teachers for that. They were unhappy with the books, unhappy with the price, unhappy with the schedule, all things that had nothing to do with the teacher. So I was thinking, story is very reminiscent of Cinderella. So if we look at how the two stories go together, Cinderella is a case study of a poor girl who has evil people above her.
Oh, working as a teacher is such a pleasure. I love my students. And
Let me tell you, this was in Warsaw. These were some of the teachers that were there in the workshop. And here's their case study story.
they love me. We're so happy together. I could just sing. If only my boss.
I just realized, can you hear it? Yes, okay, good.
Bosses were as happy with my performance.
Your students aren't doing homework.
But they are learning. They have the highest test scores in the land.
Maybe, but they have been complaining about the course book not being relevant and that the online materials are boring.
But with all due respect, I didn't choose the book. You did. I tried to make it as interesting as I can with what I have.
Well, surely not enough. You must be using it wrong then. Surely you aren't questioning my abilities, are you?
Oh no! It's just the book was written in 1905 and it doesn't even mention TV, the internet, cell phones, or social media. They can't relate to it.
You have to be creative. Find a way to make it work. Work harder, work longer. I've also heard from other teachers that all your students do is talk in your evening class. This is outrageous. Talk?
Well, it's a conversation class.
No matter. Your KPIs are in the toilet, and if you don't clean up your act, we will let you go.
Oh my.
Okay, that gives you a little taste. And look at that person looking on in the front row. Okay, but just to give you an idea, um, these people need to improve their English skills, their English teaching skills, because their acting skills, no, I'm teasing. They did a wonderful job. Um, what I'm trying to show you is we can take case studies, make them relevant, and make them fun so students can actually get used to them. This is how you get started into business English and workplace English. If you've heard me before, I'm always talking about frameworks, the different ways we make decisions. Students need to know these for most jobs. Teachers need to learn them and to learn how to work with them. They're not very difficult. But again, we hear these words, we run away. How many times have you gone to a conference and you see business English, case studies, frameworks, and you say, I'm not going to that talk? It happens all the time. But this is what today's and tomorrow's student needs. Now, here's a simple Venn diagram. You're all familiar with a Venn diagram. Start simple. This is the basis of business English. Here's a little explanation of the Venn diagram.
Another way to look at this. Here we have the universe of all women. Okay, these are the ones you want to sleep with. These are the women who believe exactly what you believe. These are the women who would be willing to sleep with you. Right there, in a little triple intersection, is your ideal mate. Odds are she's a short physicist with low self-esteem who lives in a government research facility in China.
Okay. But we deal with this all the time in life. Why are we afraid of it? If we're going out, Susan, we're going to go out to dinner when we meet up in Belfast. We decide, where's a place with good food? Where's a place that has a good price? Because we're both a little Mau de Vaca, right? And where that comes together, that's a good choice. So we use frameworks every day. There's nothing to be afraid of. And we'll have dinner, Susan. Another one I do is, you may have seen this talk, story building. And what I like to do is work with my groups. They take a series of pictures and they need to collaborate, work together to come up with a story. This works wonderfully. And I use this with pictures that I have. You can use pictures from anywhere. And working with presentation skills. I've been doing this talk for years. Teachers need to improve on their presentation skills. So do students. Every student, every worker, every employee is going to have to make a presentation at some time in their life. They need these skills. We can be helping them right now while we're working with language. So, just like my voice, my cell phone, my tablet, my laptop, everything needs to recharge. They won't go on after and over again of use without recharging. We need to recharge ourselves too, which means we need to update our software just like we do with our machines. we need to update ourselves. And if we're going to do this, we need to upskill ourselves so we can help upskill our students. And I'm not going to speak Polish, but I found a very old Polish saying. Let's see if anybody knows it. Daddy, if you wait until summer, the wolves will eat the horse. Does anybody actually know this saying? I was looking for something that I could say. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. The time is now. We need to start and learn. We cannot wait for summer. By the time AI gets here, we're being replaced right now. If we look at Asia, Japan, China, which are some of the brightest and best educated students in the world, they're already using AI for teaching. Language, math, science, everything. It's an economy of scale. So we need to fight against this. We can't wait till the summer. And we need to keep the wolves at bay. So, with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Let me stop sharing. And I welcome your questions, your comments. You can turn on your mics and cameras, I believe. And now I'd love to see all your happy, smiling faces. So everybody, please turn on your camera if you can. Yeah. Hello, come on, smiling faces. Good. Nice smile, Cat.
Gotcha.
Everyone, show me you're awake. First of all, any question? I'm was I was trying not to really pay attention to the chat room. Let me go back quickly. Um, Let me see. Da, 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 da. All right. Necessity is the mother of invention, but if you improve teaching. Yep. Very good point, Mina. Um, you know, there's a job for us always, especially if you learn how to teach one to one. Whether you're working at a university, at a course, or anything now, maybe the business is going to change. But you know what? I'm still getting one to one students, and I'm getting them from students' recommendations from 20 years ago when I was teaching in Brazil. Because if you do a good job, people are going to advertise for you. We can always be working, or we can be writing books, right, Susan? Giving talks, yes. But there'll be jobs for us. But we have to give what people need. And what they need is changing. So, yes, focus on competition. Forget about business ethics. Yes, that's a whole nother talk. Ethics in business. Yep. We talk about the unicorn and Shamrock Shakes in that one. Bossy than tax. Yeah, really, you have to understand the nuance of the language. We all know there's different ways of saying things, and we don't always teach that in class. Formal, informal, less formal, yep. Go beyond communication. Yeah, come across rude. And one single word can be rude. The misuse of one word can make a huge difference. Um, let's see what else we have. Yep, losing business instead of being tactful. Yep. And should a business English teacher come from a business background? It helps. I will say that. It's not necessary. Remember, I'm not going to try and teach a business person how to do business. They got that job because they know business. So I don't have to teach them business. I have to teach them how to communicate in business. So there's a difference. I am not a business teacher. Actually, I could be because I am from business. My background is there. But that's not always necessary. They know how to do their job or they'd be fired. But we need to help them take what they know in Polish or whatever language they speak and how to transfer that correctly to communicate in English. That's what our job is as a business English teacher. So, no, you don't have to know, but it does help. I'll be honest. If you're teaching somebody how to cook, isn't it much easier if you can cook yourself? Same thing. So, tell when you're talking to your student, this is what you tell them. Hey, I'm not a business person. I understand business. I'm here to help you with communication. Tell them. If you happen to know business, let's say you grew up with a family business, a family farm. Hey, you can help a family farmer speak perfectly because you have relative experience, but not necessary. If you do understand it, and if you don't, I always recommend take a Coursera course, Business 101. Get to understand the basics of business. And here's the best way to improve. Have your student teach you their job in English. Because now they're practicing using their language for their experience, and at the same time, you're correcting their English, but you're also learning the job. When I was teaching in Brazil, I was teaching in oil and gas. I know more about oil and gas than I ever wanted to know. I work with lawyers. I work with the Navy. I actually, excuse me, I can actually correct Brazilian lawyers on some maritime laws because I've been working with it for so long. You pick these things up as you go. Now I'm here, Poland, Belarus, Russia, IT. I'm learning more about IT than I ever needed to know. But it helps me with my next student. Okay? Learn from your students. No. Plenty of resources available. Yes. The best resource ever, IATEFL Poland, the IATEFL Poland BSIG, and IATEFL BSIG. I hear they have a wonderful joint coordinator this year. And so get involved with BSIG. Be careful. Yeah, needs analysis. It is such a shame that as a university or a high school teacher, that we are not allowed, because of the syllabus, to sit and do a needs analysis on every student. How can you help someone if you don't know what they need? Imagine I'm a doctor. I walk into a room full of 30 patients and I can't figure out what each patient needs. What do? Give them all an aspirin, send them home. That's what they're telling us to do as teachers. That is, I won't say the word. Susan, you know the word I'm thinking. It's ridiculous. We need to know what the student needs so we can help them. That's why I love teaching one-to-one. I can do a needs analysis. You know? Anyway, I teach only in a group setting. All my students are pre-work 20-year-olds. It's tricky. Yeah, no, it's not. Think about this. If you're working with high school students, university students, students this age, first start, what do you want to be when you grow up? Let them imagine themselves in that job. Another one, what does your mother do? Now you're your mother. What does your father do? Now you're your father. They understand what their parents do for work. They can put themselves into some type of job. So it makes it easier. But the one, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, I'm still working on this, right, Susan? I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. Hopefully successful. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be tricky. There are ways around it. Case study, the role should be clearly described. Yep, exactly. Roles have to be always clearly described. Opposite would be they create the profiles and cases. Very good, very nice. I knew there's a reason I have you around here. Good ideas. Yes, well, biggest problem with first year students at unis make them realize there is no one correct answer. Who said there's one correct answer? There's never one correct answer.
But that's
Sometimes,
what they have been taught in,
I know.
in primary school and then in high school, you
Yeah,
know.
I know.
Reproduce, yes.
Yeah,
Don't go beyond this frame, yes, because we will be correcting your graduation examination according to our set of criteria. That is the problem,
I
yes.
know. I am blessed. You know, after living in, I've been here for 5 years in Poland, so I've seen some of it. 15 years, 16 years in Brazil, I saw a ton of it. Talk about blinders. I was blessed growing up in the States in a very progressive educational system, which actually let us think, talk, create, and never said there's only one answer, only sometimes in math, you know. But I was lucky, and Susan, I'm sure you probably had a pretty good one too, judging how, progressive you are these days. But, it's so bad when they have the blinders on. As English teachers, let's help them tear them off, you know. Pretty rigid mindset after years. Great. Let me see. Progressive system. All right, I think we came to the end. Any questions or comments? I'm here all night, until she kicks me out. I'd love to hear your ideas. Susan, how'd I do?
What I love, Rob, is the way that you start with people and their world, and then the language comes out of that. Because I think the problem very often in language teaching is people start with the language and maybe they get through to the people, but a lot of them never get that far. So I think this starting with real people, whether it's business English or kids or, whatever it is, it's the person and what you want to do in language. And you happen to be doing it in English, but it might be Polish or French or Portuguese or what have you. So I think that's what I really love about the framework you were talking in.
Oh, thank you. You're my hero. I miss you.
I'll see you in Belfast.
Yes, you certainly will.
Well, maybe.
I hope so. We'll see you here in Poland too, though. Right?
I have plans.
Good. Great. Some comments, some questions? Come on. Somebody fight me. Tell me I'm wrong. I often am. There is no one answer, and I don't have the only answer.
And you should take care of your throat.
Well,
You want somebody to fight with you? I'm the first fighter. In this area, I'm ready to fight anytime.
Yeah. So, let's see. What else? So oh, look at that. I mean, come on, comments. Where is everybody? Wake up. I'm going to give a test.
Positive remarks, a lot of them, as usual.
Will the IATEFL Poland conference happen online? I'll tell you what I think. Gosh, I hope not. I'll let you answer that. IATEFL Poland, September? Live? Face-to-face? Everybody knows where, right?
Yeah.
It's in Poznan. We'll be face-to-face.
Wonderful place. That's where my family comes from. Those people are considered to be very thrifty, economical. And so now I'm a perfect combination because my parents came from the Poznań area, Wielkopolska called, and now I'm in Małopolska with similar traits. Yes, so these traits have been intensified. That's what my husband keeps repeating.
Good. One thing that we haven't talked about, I'll have to talk with Jeff. We haven't set anything up for a Poland BSIG yet. We'll talk later because you know what I'm up to. But we'll come up with a BSIG one. We've been doing this for I think the past 3 years. We've had a separate IATEFL Poland BSIG somewhere around Poland. Hopefully that'll be face to face too. But
last time it was in Krakow.
You don't want it online. Yes, I agree. I miss seeing everybody too. Have you tried TED Talk? My speech is amazing. Thank you.
Neil Armstrong. Yes, you sound like Neil Armstrong.
What? I'm on the moon?
Yes, you might as well try it.
Yeah. I don't do TED Talk. I do EFL talks. And great. Okay. So I don't know if there's no more questions.